Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Eden Project in Cornwall. My name is Tom, and I am part of the education team here. But I'm also joined, as you can see, by some other guests today. We have Robbie, who is our education team lead, and he is driving this platform from our studio.
Morning.
And we also have Kate and Tracy from the Big Lunch team, who are hosting the event for us today.
Morning, everybody.
Morning, everybody.
Fantastic. Now, we are super excited to have so many of you with us this morning. I can see the little number on my screen is creeping up all the time as to how many viewers we have. So it's fantastic to have so many of you with us. And we can't wait to show you around this amazing biome. However, before we do, I just want to start with a little bit of housekeeping. It's best to view this stream in full screen. It gives you the best views of the plants and other things that I'm going to be showing you in here today. However, in order to access the chat and to use the comments function, you might need to come out of full screen. Now, we're going to be using that chat throughout the session today to take questions from you, and we'll answer as many of those as we can as we make our way round. But we will also be using that function to get answers from you to some riddles that we are going to be setting for you a little bit later on. However, I will tell you more about that a little bit later on in the session. Right, now that we've done that, let me tell you what today's session is going to be all about. Today, we are going to be focusing on the connections between us and three of my very favourite things. Number one, community celebrations and parties, like the Big Lunch, which you're going to hear more about in a few minutes. Between us and food, and also the tropical rainforest as well. So lots of stuff for us to get through this morning. Now, what I'm going to do first, before we start what I'm actually going to say is, and we're going to use one of our favourite stories here at Eden to show you around our biome and to make these connections. It's a story called The Rainforest Big Lunch. And using this story, we're going to visit some of our most iconic plants here in the biome. We're going to tell you their stories, and we're also going to connect them to foods that you might make if you were having a special community celebration. Before we do that, however, we're going to tell you a little bit more about this place, and also tell you a bit more about what the Big Lunch is. So I'm going to start off by handing over to Robbie, who's going to tell you a little bit more about the Eden Project. So over to you, Robbie.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, folks. So yeah, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Eden Project and the history of Eden Project. So as you can see on the screen there, Eden Project was built in an old China clay quarry. And what we actually did is we took that big, ugly, sandy hole in the ground with no plants, and we actually transformed it into a theatre of plants and people. And this just shows you what it looked like during the build. We've got our rainforest biome in the background, our Mediterranean biome here. The building I'm sat in at the moment actually didn't exist at the very beginning. But this is more like what it looks like today. So there's again, you can see the rainforest biome now, it's all finished. And in the foreground here, we've got this amazing playground called Nature's Playground. And if you ever visit Eden Project, I'd really recommend that you actually come in and have a play in there. So I guess the most important thing to know would be what the job or what the purpose of Eden Project is. So Eden Project is really here because we want to demonstrate to people and inspire people to take action for the planet. We want to show them just how important nature and plants actually are, and then give them lots of ideas about what they can do at home, at school, in their communities to actually protect the environment and make a difference. And we focus a lot at Eden, particularly on the plant side of things, because, you know, just in our rainforest biome, we've got over 1,000 varieties of plants growing. But plants are so useful for so many things. And you can see some of those reasons on the slide there. And you can see some amazing plants in front of Tom there on the screen with beautiful colours. But plants obviously give us our food, medicines, materials. They give us the oxygen we need to breathe and so much more. Now, we're going to be talking an awful lot about food today. So it's worth remembering that all of our food comes from plants, or we can actually, if it isn't a plant that we're eating, we can actually trace it back to a plant through a food chain. So if we had no plants, we'd have no food at all. Which is pretty scary. So what we're going to do is we're going to hand over in a moment to Tracy from the Big Lunch team, and she's going to tell you what the big lunch is all about, and why it is that we're doing this live stream today. So over to you, Tracy.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Robbie. For us, the big lunch is hugely important. It brings communities and neighbours and friends together, and even people you don't know together, so our new friends. And we come together for food, friendship and fun on the first weekend of June. And this year, the main weekend is the 7th and 8th of June. But of course, you're not at school on a weekend, so you can do it anytime around that date. We have big lunches all over the UK, in all 4 nations, in lots and lots of different places, in parks and anywhere you can think of where we can bring people together. The whole idea about the big lunch, the word in the big lunch, is all about us all doing it at the same time. A big lunch can be any size. So it could be a small group of people on a driveway like this one. It could be a whole street party. So it could be a big lunch. It could be the whole street party coming out and closing their streets and coming together, having some fun. It can be anywhere outside. It can also be inside. As we know, sometimes it does rain in June. But if it's not raining, it could even be on a beach. But what we love most of all is those big lunches that are in schools, and they can be really fun events like these ones. The reason we do the big lunch is because once people start talking and connecting and making friends, they often go on and do things together like you would with your friends. So as Robbie said, it's all about showing people how important nature is. And we must remember that we are nature too. And the big lunch is about connecting us as people to each other and to the places where we live so that we can look after each other and the nature that surrounds us. So today we're going to learn where some of my favourite big lunch ingredients come from. And they come from, of course, you've guessed it, the rainforest. So I'll pass back to Tom, and who, as we know, is there now.
Thank you very much, Tracy. Yeah, absolutely. I am currently, as you can see from the images, standing inside our rainforest biome here at Eden. Now, this is the largest rainforest in captivity in the world. It's over 200 metres long, 55 metres high, and is home to over 1,000 species of tropical plants that come from tropical rainforests. Now, we use these amazing plants here at Eden to show how we are connected to tropical rainforests, maybe more than we ever realised before, but also how we're connected to people around the world, because that's what things like the Big Lunch are all about, connecting us to people. And we are connected to people all over the world, even if we hadn't realised it before. Now, I'm nearly ready to start sharing our story with you, the story I mentioned earlier, our Rainforest Big Lunch. However, before I do, I just want to hand back to Robbie, who's going to tell you a little bit more about real tropical rainforests around the world. So back over to you, Robbie.
Thank you, Tom. So yeah, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about them whilst Tom continues to show you around as well. So where do we find the world's tropical rainforests? Well, if we just check out our map here, we can see that those areas in green are where we find our rainforests, close to the equator. And a really important piece of information to think about is that actually tropical rainforests only cover 2 to 3% of the Earth's surface. Okay, so it's not very much of the Earth's surface, but they contain a massive variety of life, a massive variety of what we call biodiversity. So that means they're incredibly precious. Now, these places are obviously hot and wet. They're hot and steamy, hot and humid. They get lots of really high intensity sunlight, so it's perfect conditions for the plants to grow, and that helps with that variety of life. Now, I've got a question for all of you there at home and in your classrooms. What I'd like you to do when I ask you this question is to see if you can use the chat function to type some answers, and I'll see if I can put some of the answers onto the screen. So my question is this: why are tropical rainforests important? So if you can have a conversation where you are, pop them into the chat and we'll see what we get. So we'll give you a few moments to do that whilst Tom gets ready to start our story. Okay, off you go, folks. Excellent. So we've got Dina Jones. They give us oxygen to breathe. Lovely. Excellent. They certainly do. We've got, let me see, next one. We've got food and habitats. Kerry, thank you very much. We've got medicines and oxygen from Emma. We have got lots of oxygen from Adrian. Habitats again. Thank you very much, Angela. Sorry, had a brain malfunction there. We've got animal shelters. Excellent, yeah. So habitats again, oxygen. Oh, what's this one? Jack, lots of plants and tropical animals, lots of species. Brilliant. Okay, well done. They give us our oxygen. Brilliant. Berries and plants to help provide medicine. Guys, that is fantastic. Well done. Thank you for that. You're absolutely right. Tom's giving you a massive thumbs up there. So loads of those things you've just said are spot on. Food and drinks, definitely. Medicines, materials for making things. Bamboo's a great example. Products, lots of products contain ingredients that come from the rainforest. Habitats, livelihoods, and they are homes for people. Water and nutrients. Excellent. And of course, and I think some of you have mentioned this, but it's all coming in so quickly, it's hard for me to keep track. But some of us also mentioned the fact that they influence the world's climate and weather systems. And Ian's put that they absorb carbon dioxide, which is really important because that helps us to fight climate change. So thank you very much, guys. That was really good and great use of the chat. You've really got the hang of that. So what I'm going to do now, I reckon Tom is really keen to crack on with this story. So I'm going to hand back to Tom and I'll speak to you again in a little while. Over to you, Thomas.
Thank you very much, Robbie. You know me so well. I love a good story and I can't wait to get started. So as I mentioned earlier on, the story we're going to be using today to help guide you around our biome is a story called The Rainforest Big Lunch. Perfect for today's event. So with that said, I'm just about to get started. But just to let you know, during this story, there will be a few riddles and clues for you guys to try and work out. And what we'd like you to do is have a chat with the people around you, work out which plants you think we're visiting, and type your answers into the chat as we go. Okay, brilliant. Well done, guys. And as Robbie said, we can see you've got the hang of the chat already, so there'll be no issues there. Okay, well, with that said then, let's start our story. It starts like this. One sunny day in the heart of Brazil, the mighty rainforest seemed unusually still. There was no roaring or howling or squawking or tweeting because the rainforest animals were all having a meeting. By the bank of the river, in an enormous clearing, a huge crowd had gathered for the important hearing. Creatures had come from across the nation to discuss a rainforest celebration. Something that would bring all the creatures together, regardless of fur or scales or feather. It has to be special, the jaguars roar. A rainforest party like never before. The problem, however, was easy to see, that none of the animals could seem to agree. It should be breakfast, no dinner, no brunch. Before, a small monkey stammered, we could have a big lunch. The idea was fantastic. They all agreed and started to list all the things they would need. We'll bring some tunes, called the noisy baboons. And we'll bring the hats, said the jungle cats. We could all bring a dish, suggests the tiger fish. Everyone seems to love this plan, and to get things ready, away they all ran. Except the small monkey, whose idea it had been, who suddenly wasn't feeling so keen. He loved the idea of the big lunch thing, but just wasn't sure of what food he should bring. Should it be chewy or something with crunch? Oh, what would he bring to the rainforest big lunch? That's when he had another idea, and this one was good. Why didn't he make a rainforest pud? He rushed quickly home to get out his recipe book. First, he'd gather the ingredients and then start to cook. But when he opened the page, it wasn't good news. All the ingredients had been written as clues. He needed help to solve each rhyme, or he'd never be able to make the pudding in time. Did you think you can help him? Are you a rhyme whiz? Well, here is the first clue. What do you think it is? Okay, guys, so here is our first clue for you. First of our riddles for you to solve, and pop your answers into the chat. So which plant do you think I'm going to be visiting next? Here's the clue. Slippy yellow skin, bendy smiley shape, makes a healthy snack for a monkey or ape. So if you start popping your answers into the chat, Robbie will keep an eye on those as they're coming in. We can see we've got some correct answers coming already. And what I'm going to do is turn around my camera and I'm going to take you to see the first of our plants.
Guys, this is looking fantastic. We've loads of people already coming in with banana there. Absolutely correct. It certainly is banana. And Tom, in a moment, is going to make his way to find the actual banana plants growing here at Eden Project. A very enthusiastic banana from Beth. Thank you. Nice, Brogan. Nice, like that. Cool. Okay, I think Tom is arriving at bananas for us. So I think what I might do is just say a little bit about bananas whilst you there, Tom, show everybody the plants. What do you think?
Yes, please, Robbie. These are the banana plants in front of us here, guys, with these amazing leaves, which I'll try and get some good close-ups of. And as I'm doing that, Robbie, could you tell us more about bananas, please?
Yes. Okay, so bananas. Now, a lot of people don't know this. This is a super good fact for a Friday. But banana plants are not trees. They are actually giant herbs. So you can go home today and speak to anyone at home and say, did you know that it's actually a giant herb? Actually one of the world's biggest, probably the biggest herb in the world. And most of the world's bananas, or the biggest producer of bananas, should I say, is India. There are actually over 1,000 different varieties of bananas. There's the blue banana from Hawaii, the ice cream banana. No prizes for guessing what that one tastes like. But actually, it's interesting because when you go to the supermarket, you pretty much only see one of those varieties of bananas. The variety we find in our supermarket is called the Cavendish banana. And the reason that we tend to eat mostly the Cavendish banana in our country is because actually it travels very well on the ships. So when it gets to our country, it still looks nice on the supermarket shelf. But there are actually 999 or more actually other varieties of bananas, and some of which probably taste a lot better than the Cavendish. So if you ever get the chance, please try some different varieties of bananas. Now, they are actually the world's most popular fruit, which probably doesn't surprise you because most people, have one of them in their packed lunch boxes. But because of that, sometimes that can cause some problems because banana plantations are found in the tropics, in the tropical regions, and sometimes the production of bananas can lead to deforestation and pollution in those areas. For example, there's often quite a lot of plastic is used in the process of transporting and harvesting the bananas. So it's really important that we all know what we can do to help so that we can find bananas that have been produced in a way that's looked after the environment. And one thing we can do is look out for that logo that we've got on the screen there, which is with the little frog, which is the Rainforest Alliance logo. And if you see that stamped on bananas or chocolate or coffee or any other product, it means that when they produce that product, they looked after the rainforest and the people in those places. So it means it's much more sustainable. It's better for the environment and better for the people. So that's one way we can help by thinking about what we buy when we shop, is by looking for that logo. So have a look for it next time you go and buy something in the supermarket and bananas and things like that. Okay, folks, I think what I'm going to do is hand back to Thomas because I think he's going to crack on with the next part of the story. Over to you, Tom.
Thank you, Robbie. So, yeah, bananas. That's it. The first thing that goes in. Let's pick them and peel them and slice them quite thin. Now, talking about picking, peeling, and slicing bananas, just before we continue with the story, I'm going to hand over to Tracy because I know that the Big Lunch team have some fantastic banana recipes on their website, which she wants to tell you about before we move on. So, over to you, Tracy. Tell us all about bananas.
Oh, well, I've got two favourite recipes that you can find on our website. One is amazing banana loaf that you can actually make into cupcakes. And the reason I like the banana loaf and making banana cupcakes is because you can use bananas that are going off a bit, that are gone black and a bit yucky and not as nice to eat. But if you've got a nice fresh banana, you could try making one of these. This is my banana and strawberry snake. Now, I know this was a popular activity at my grandson's school last year. So there's lots of different recipes that you can find to use your bananas, just in munching them up. Thank you.
Okay, back to Thomas. Are you there, Thomas?
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that, Tracy. Yeah, I love the sound of that banana loaf. I think that's definitely one that I'm going to have to try making myself. But anyway, on with the next part of the story. So well done, everyone. What would Monkey do without you? Now, are you ready for clue number 2? So here we go. Brown, round and hard, all covered in hair. What is this seed that grows high in the air? Okay, so again, pop your answers into the chat. Robbie will keep an eye on those as I make my way further around the biome here, heading towards this plant. Let's see if any of you have got it. What is this seed that grows high in the air?
Excellent. We've got Charmaine there, coconut. Kiwi or coconut we've got. We've got some people thinking it's kiwi, and I think that's because as well it's brown and covered in hair, and kiwis definitely are. So it could sound a bit like a kiwi, actually. It's a really good guess. We've got
absolutely a really good guess.
More coconut.
Sorry, Robbie.
That's okay, Tom. We've got coconut. Oh, a very, very enthusiastic coconut from Tom there. Thank you. You are right, folks. It definitely is coconut. Thank you very much for that. Tom, are you now stood in front of our coconut palm?
Absolutely, Robbie. Yes, I am. This is one of our smaller coconut palms here in the rainforest, but really nice because I can get up close to it. So I'm going to show you this while Robbie tells you a little bit more about coconuts and what an incredible plant they are.
Thank you, Thomas. So yeah, coconuts. Well, you know, coconuts are just delicious. Obviously, we know that we can eat coconuts, but they're way more than just food. If we just think about the eating bit, you can eat the flesh from inside the coconut, the white flesh. You can also use that white flesh to press it and crush it all up and get what we call coconut milk out, which we can use in lots of delicious dishes. You can get coconut water from inside the coconut, which is very, very healthy and refreshing drink if you're ever in the tropics. But it's loads of other things as well. We can use the husks of the coconuts to make matting for doormats. We can get oil out of the coconut, which is really good for cooking with and things like that. And I expect if you look around your house, you will be able to find some products that also contain extracts of coconut, whether that might be things like shampoo or soaps and stuff like that. So it's often used because it smells so delicious, often used in those cosmetic products. And the other day when I got to the swimming pool, actually, after swimming, I had coconut shampoo. And everyone was saying it smelled absolutely delicious. Okay, so it does make you smell amazing. So that's coconut. Okay, folks, I think it would be good if we could hand over to Tracy, who could tell us a little bit more about coconut and how that links to the big lunch. Are you with us, Tracy?
Yes, I am. I love coconut recipes. I think we might have to turn Tom off. That rainforest is very noisy. Coconut is lovely, and my husband's favourite thing is jam sponge with coconut on. But on the website, we've got some really good big lunch sharing things, which are coconut macaroons. They're lovely to make, and everybody loves them, and especially nice squashed together with a bit of cream in the middle. Very nice. But in our house, we just like to break them up and eat them up raw, and have a little munch on them. So why don't you buy a big coconut and see what you think to the taste? Thank you. Back over to you.
Thank you, Tracy. Tom, are you with us?
Absolutely. So coconuts, you've got it. It tastes great, fresh or dried. Now let's open one up and scrape out the inside. Now I am going to quickly, guys, just go away from the story for a second because I want to show you this incredible plant that I've got in front of me here. There we go. Robbie can make me full screen. Thanks very much, Robbie. Now this plant here, guys, is called taro. Now they've been doing lots of watering in the rainforest this morning, which is fantastic because it means there are beads of water sitting on our taro plant. And watch what happens when I roll them around. Really good. And I can squirt some water on some of these leaves too. And you can see just what happens. Robbie, can you tell us what's going on here?
Yes, Thomas. Indeed, I can. So those leaves of the taro plant are what we call hydrophobic. And what that means is that they repel water. So when the water lands on those leaves, it causes the water to kind of bead up into droplets of water. And the water droplets simply move across the bumpy, waxy surface of the leaves and run off and drop off. And it really helps the plant to stay dry because if it gets really wet over long periods of time, it could end up going moldy. So it helps to protect the plant from pests and diseases and going moldy, really. Thanks for showing us that. That was great.
Thank you very much, Robbie. So on to the next clue, guys. So what could it be? Are you guys ready for clue number 3? Milk, white or dark, hard, soft or runny. Whichever one you choose, you know it's sure to be yummy. So I'm going to make my way towards this plant now. However, it is a little bit of a walk for me. So as well as me walking through the rainforest, we've probably got some questions come in, and this might be a good opportunity for Kate to read out a few of those questions for us as I'm making my way to our next plant. So pop your answers in the chat, but also, Kate, can we have a few questions?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. So Rebecca in Exminster wanted to know if there's any news on the decline of bees.
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know about news on the decline of bees. Obviously, we have a challenge with our bees and our pollinators. I mean, they're very, very important because every third spoonful of food that we put in our mouth is a result of insect pollination. And we know that because of the use of certain pesticides, we've actually been affecting quite a lot of our pollinators because a lot of our pollinators are also killed off by those pesticides. So I'm really pleased that you've raised that issue. In terms of news, I haven't got any really up-to-date news about our pollinators, apart from to say that I know that generally speaking, people are becoming much more aware of the fact that if they use pesticides or weed killers and stuff, then that could have a bad impact on the bees and the insects and the butterflies. And lots of people are turning to different ways of getting rid of weeds. So for example, if you really must pull out your weeds, you could, go and pull them out, which is what I tend to do, which does take a while, but it's quite interesting to, always find lots of bugs and stuff whilst you do that. Or you can actually mix up different potions of your own using household, fairly benign household materials like salt and things like that actually will kind of kill off some weeds as well. So there are ways of kind of making your own recipes up, your own sort of weed killers that don't involve using the really harmful ones that can actually kill off our pollinators. That's a great question. I'm not sure if I answered it that well, but I gave it a go. Thank you. Any more questions there, Kate?
Yeah, thanks for the answer, Robbie. Finley wants to know, what is the tallest plant in the Eden Project rainforest?
Ooh, yeah, good question. So the tallest plant, I would probably say our tallest tree is our oil nut tree, which is probably getting on for 30 meters tall. Now, it will grow a lot taller than that, but the problem we'll have is that it will actually start to grow through the top of our biome. So we'll have to actually start pruning it quite a lot. But just to put that into context for you, they have actually found, scientists have found trees in the tropical rainforest in Malaysia that are actually over 100 meters tall. So they're absolute giants. And these giant trees are super important for biodiversity because they're home to lots of other creatures. And they're also super important, well, for so many reasons, but also to help us fight climate change because they store away an awful lot of carbon dioxide. Are there any more questions there, Kate, before we put one more before we pass back to Thomas?
Yeah. Just one more here. How many bananas grow on one herb at a time? And there are lots of other questions in the chat, but I know we need to crack on with the story, so perhaps we can answer some of those after today.
Yeah, so that question is a great question. It really depends on as I said, there's lots of different types of varieties of banana plants, but a whole bunch of bananas growing on one plant at once, maybe somewhere between sort of 30 and 50 potentially, but it really could depend on the species. I wouldn't like to give you an exact answer on that, but it's a great question. I'm gonna have to do some Googling later on, I think. Now, Thomas has arrived at our next plant, and I also noticed in the chat lots of correct answers were coming in for the riddle that Thomas actually gave us, with lots of people all agreeing.
Absolutely.
Here's Lauren.
Thank you very much, Robbie.
Okay, go for it, Tom. Oh, have we lost Tom? Oh, potentially lost Tom for a second, so don't worry. I'm still here, and Tracy and Kate are still here, so that's fine. So as I said, I'll just come back to a view of us that are here. So as I said, yeah, that was chocolate. That was the next clue. So it was milk, white or dark, hard, soft or runny, whichever one you choose. It's sure to be yummy, our delicious chocolate. Now, what I'm going to do now is just show you a few images of some chocolate and tell you a little bit about it. Hopefully Tom will rejoin us at some point, but if he doesn't, that's okay. He's probably having a nice wander around the rainforest there, looking at the chocolate plants. But here is cacao. So this is the plant that gives us chocolate. And you can see these are cacao pods growing on a tree here. And when they are ripe, they go a beautiful yellow color. But these ones here won't be quite ready yet. But when they're yellow, that means they're ripe. And then what the cacao farmers do is they take the beans out of the pods and they ferment them, so they rot them down a bit on the forest floor, and then they dry them, and so they look a bit like the picture with the cacao beans in the hand there. Okay, and that's part of the cacao processing. Now Tom is back with us, so what I'm going to do is pass back to him so that he can actually show you some cacao pods. Tom, are you with us?
Yes, Robbie. Sorry about that, guys. My signal must have dropped out. It sometimes happens because of all the plants in here. They block our internet signal. But hopefully you've got me back. And hopefully in front of me, you can see some of these incredible cacao pods, which I know Robbie was just talking to you about. You've come at just the right time of year, guys, because at the moment you can see these have all turned yellow, which means they are now ripe and ready to be harvested and turned into delicious chocolate. Now, Robbie, had you finished giving us some of your excellent cacao facts?
Well, I was just going to say, just while you continue to show those pictures there, I was just going to talk really briefly about the idea that the chocolate companies historically have also always made lots of money out of chocolate. It's a very valuable commodity and lots of people like to eat a lot of chocolate. But the cacao farmers who put in all the hard work and dangerous work actually to produce the cacao beans have actually always been paid pretty poorly for their beans. And this is something which is now starting to change. We can all help these cacao farmers who are thousands of miles away from us in places like Ghana and the Ivory Coast in West Africa. We can help them earn more money by thinking about the sorts of chocolate that we buy. So for example, I can show you this symbol And I'm sure many of you have seen that symbol before. That's our fair trade symbol. And if you buy chocolate or bananas or coffee or tea or lots of products, but if you buy a product that has the fair trade stamp on it, it means that people, the farmers that actually produce that product, will get paid more money for their cacao beans if they're cacao farmers. They'll have better working conditions and more money will be invested back into their community to improve the lives of the people that live there. And it will also help them because it encourages them to use more environmentally friendly farming practices. So when it comes to cacao and lots of other products that come from the rainforest, if you look out for those logos like the fair trade, then you can be much more certain that the money you're spending on that product is going to the people that put all the hard work into making it in the first place, the people that really need that money. Okay, Tom, back to you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Robbie. So chocolate, you're right. That's what this pod needs. Now let's open a pod and throw in some seeds. And again, talking about chocolate, I know that it's one of Tracy's favourite things, and she's going to tell you about some brilliant big lunch recipes that use chocolate. Over to you, Tracy.
Thank you. I think I might have had a bit too much chocolate at the weekend. I wonder whether anybody else did. So we've got a couple of favourites on our website, and of course, good old Rice Krispie cakes. You can't go wrong with. So, quick question from me: how many Rice Krispie cakes could you make from one hollow Easter egg? I'll tell you in a little minute, be quick. But also we've got some lovely chocolate brownies in there and chocolate cupcakes. And I'm sure you can think of lots of things that we can make with the lovely chocolate as well as just eating it. And we've got a few answers here. We've got 5, 10, 12, 14. Oh, we're doing well. Well, me and my grandson and granddaughter, Damien and Anna, had a little go at this yesterday. And I'll tell you how many we made. We made 23 cakes. 23 Rice Krispie cakes from one Easter egg. Now I know which I prefer. Right, back over to you. Thank you for all your things.
Thank you very much, Tracy. So yeah, my goodness, I love chocolate, and those crispy cakes sound delicious. I know I'm going to certainly use some of my Easter eggs to make those. Now, just before we continue with the next part of the story, guys, I thought I'd quickly stop here by another one of my favourite plants in the biome. This plant here is called the sensitive plant, and it's one that lots of groups of children always like to see when they come to Eden. And watch what happens when I give the leaves of the sensitive plant a little tap. You may have seen it there. Let's try on another one. There we go. We can see that when we tap these leaves, they close up and they shrivel and they wilt. Robbie, why do they do that?
So that's a really interesting question. And scientists aren't 100% sure about the answer, but they think it's because it's the plant trying to protect itself. So they might close up during heavy rainfall so they don't get damaged by the heavy rainfall. And another idea is that they close up in that way so that the plant doesn't look as appetizing to any herbivores which might be brushing past the plant. So they leave it alone, it doesn't get eaten.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Robbie. Right, back to the stories, guys. So, thinking about our rainforest pud, now let's give it a mix, add some eggs and some flour, and bake it on high for roughly an hour. On the day of the lunch, there was plenty of food, and all of the animals were in an excellent mood. There was singing and dancing and laughter and fun. A great time being had by everyone. And with the help from his friends, yeah, that's you, Monkey was able to solve each clue. And although the animals had a great lunch, they ate sandwiches and buns and grapes by the bunch, their favourite dish, everyone agreed, was the one that you had helped Monkey to read. It was warm, it was sweet, and it tasted so good. The fabulous, wonderful rainforest pud. The big lunch had brought fun and good cheer, and they all agreed that they would do one next year.
Thank you, Tom. That was lovely. What a beautiful story. And we've covered so much ground this morning. A little round of applause for Tom.
Thanks, Robbie.
You're welcome. Yeah, I've just seen actually in the chat a really great question which links to the thing that I was going to mention next. So I'm just going to pull up that question in the chat, which is from Robin, and it says, is deforestation unavoidable in 2025? And that is such a timely and interesting, well thought out question. And hopefully we're going to go some way to talking about that now, because as you know, I'm sure, we're actually having a bit of a challenge with our tropical rainforests at the moment. We are losing a lot of the world's tropical rainforests to deforestation. And just to give you an idea of how much, we actually lose an area of tropical rainforest the size of our tropical rainforest at Eden every 11 seconds. So every 11 seconds it goes by, we lose an area of tropical rainforest the size of our rainforest biome. So that's basically two football pitches every 11 seconds. Now that's a really, really scary thought. And if you're thinking about that and think, oh, that sounds really scary to me, then, that's okay, because it is a scary, scary statistic. But it's really important to know that there's actually millions of people and millions of organizations across the world who are actually taking action to help the rainforest, and that we can all join in and take action as well. And thinking about that and some of the things you've heard today, I'd like to see if you guys could put anything in the chat about what we can all do to actually help protect the world's tropical rainforest. And maybe we can go some way to answering Robin's question there as well. So have a conversation. What can you think of? What ways are there? What things can we do that would help protect tropical rainforests? Pop them in the chat and we'll see what comes up. Off you go, guys. Ooh, I've got a few things coming in already. Plant new trees. Yes, so reforestation, Helen, lovely. Replanting forests that we've previously degraded. Fair trade items, brilliant. Another great one. Recycling. Thank you, Elizabeth. Using both sides of the paper. That's a really good one, Ruby. Just not wasting stuff. Yep, recycling again. Reusing shopping bags. Build less roads. Yeah, so we need to think about how we build and where we build, and building sensibly and mindful of the environment. Oh, this is a really good one, Joe. We've got cut down on consumerism. So yeah, do we really need all that new stuff? Because there's quite a difference between the stuff that we need and the stuff that we want. Sometimes we want stuff, but maybe we need to stop and think for a second about whether we actually really need it. Use less paper, we've got there. Okay. Oh, what's this one? Holly, ask the governments of the world to come together to have a plan. Absolutely. And actually, there are plans like that are emerging. There are lots of businesses and governments that are working together on plans to actually protect the rainforest. And actually, one way to find out about that is to look at the UN's got quite a lot of programs around reforestation and protecting rainforests. They are great ideas, guys. I had a few of my own, but I hardly think that I need to share them really, because you pretty much said all the things. But I will just show you very briefly. So yeah, we like to think about researching the companies that we buy from. Are they doing the right sorts of things in terms of the environment? And if they are, then great, buy their stuff. And if they're not, maybe don't buy their stuff. Looking for those logos, thinking about fair trade, making good decisions when we shop. And of course, having conversations about these things. Talk to your friends and your families and your teachers about why forests are important, and share the actions that you are taking. And again, this is a really important one. Support charities that are doing good work to protect the rainforest. So a great example of that would be like Eden Project, because we are working to help protect the environment. The WWF are a massive charity. And down here in Cornwall, there's a great charity called Cool Earth, which is doing lots working with people in the rainforest to help protect the rainforest. Brilliant ideas. We are coming towards the end of our session. I'm going to hand back to Tracy before we go to Tom, though. So Tracy, Over to you, please.
Yeah, so we had a few ideas as well about how you could make your big lunch a little bit more sustainable to help protect us and our rainforests. And some of those things about eating more fruit and vegetables, which is sometimes is not what we like to do, but also about having those grains and those rice, because not only are they healthy for us, they're healthy for the planet, because a lot of deforestation happens because we clear the land to farm chickens and cows. So if we eat more plants and less meat at our big lunch, then we're making great choices for our rainforest. You could also use your big lunch as a fundraiser to fundraise for one of those charities that you think about or care about, or look after a piece of nature where your school is based. You could also think about the packaging you're using at your big lunch. Can you use reusable boxes and bottles? Can you ask people to bring in plates and cutlery so you're not using single-use plastic that just goes straight in the bin? So we have lots of different ideas and resources that could help making your big lunch sustainable for your community and for your school. I think, Kate, what else do we have for our schools and the children to do?
Thank you, Tracy. Yes, I absolutely loved listening to the Rainforest Big Lunch story today, and I hope you all did too. I think Robbie's got a slide there to show for me, but one day we would love to make the story into a real book. But what we need for that is a beautifully drawn cover. So we've got a challenge for all of you. We will send a blank version of this book cover template to your teachers, and we would like you to draw the cover for our Rainforest Big Lunch story on there and send it in to us. So that will be coming over after this lesson. But there are a few other ways that you can get involved in the Big Lunch this year. Next slide, please, Robbie. You can, of course, hold a big lunch. It could be a fundraiser, as Tracy said, and we've had people raise over £100 million at big lunches held to date, which is absolutely amazing. You could fundraise for your school, for the Eden Project, for a local charity. And then finally, we will be sharing with you teachers some other lesson plans. So if you enjoyed this one, you can do some more learning with the Eden Project and with the Big Lunch this year. Finally, I'm just about to share a survey in the chat, and we'd love to have your thoughts on today's lesson. And we are here. Contact details are on the screen. If you've got any more questions or want to get in touch and tell us what you're doing for the Big Lunch this year, we'd love to hear from you. Back to you, Tom.
Much. Let me get myself off mute. Thank you very much, Kate. So great effort today, everybody. We really hope that you've enjoyed looking around our rainforest. We're sorry we couldn't answer more of your questions because I know there were so many amazing ones coming in. But obviously we'd love you to come and visit us here as well. We've talked about rainforests in general, and as Robbie said, there's lots of things we can do to help. But remember, we can all do something, and what we do matters. Okay, so keep that in mind, guys. But having taken up probably enough of your time already, I think it's time for us all to say goodbye. So first of all, it's goodbye from our Big Lunch team.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, have a beautiful day.
Thank you, guys. It's also goodbye from Robbie.
It's goodbye from me. And also just to say, all your comments about actions you can take are just fantastic. It's so heartening to see all those amazing ideas. So well done, folks. And if we could all take action like the sorts of things you've written down, we would solve all these challenges. So well done. Thank you. Over to you, Tom.
Brilliant. Thanks, Robbie. And yeah, I absolutely agree. Brilliant answers. But also, guys, it's thank you and goodbye from me as well. So with that said, have a great day. And we look forward to seeing you at the Eden Project sometime soon. Bye.
Bye.